Hey everyone, this is a 5-minute guide on the Forgotten Wrath Warlock PvE spec that you might find yourself using in Old War, Destro. Alright, let's get straight into it. In Old War, this is the spec I'm going to be rocking. The only differentiation would be if I have less hit or if I have more hit. I would take these points out of suppression, I would move them to somewhere like Feldom, or I would put them in another point in Nether Protection, or if I found my pet dying a lot, I would put it into Fel Synergy. Destro has a lot of talents surrounding the Imp, such as Demonic Power and Empowered Imp, so the demon of choice is going to be the Imp at all times. Going into the Glyphs, we have a few options actually. Con Flag is needed 100%. When you Con Flag, it doesn't eat your Immolate. You have Life Tap, which you should be familiar with as you get your Spirit converted into Spell Power for 40 seconds. And then you have Incinerate. But I've seen a lot of builds where they drop Life Tap completely in favor of Glyph of Immolate, which just increases the tick damage of your Immolate. It's up to you. You have to play around and find what you're most comfortable with. Destruction doesn't have any really niche consumes compared to the other Warlock specs. You want to always have a stone in your bag. I like using fire as destruction because of the direct damage, and the spell crits are cool to see. You want wild magic or haste pot for pre-potting. We will go into that later. Spell power flask, spell power food, and flame. Ooh, never mind. And health stones. Health stones are nice too. Before we get into the Destro opener, let's make sure we have our static buffs. You want Fel Armor, a Stone, Imp Out, and Soul Link if it's talented. When a pull timer finally goes out, you will Life Tap and Pre-Pod around 1 second left, Precast Immolate while sending your pet in, pop your gloves, put a curse, whatever that may be, Chaos Bolt, Con Flag. Now you can just spam Incinerate and get into the maintenance of the rotation. There are guides that say to use Corruption. When I put Corruption on the target, in Destro, because the talents don't really synergize with it and doesn't give us any procs, I find Corruption doesn't do that much damage. Look how tiny it is, and isn't worth it. Getting into the maintenance of the rotation, the most important thing we have to do is keep up our Life Tap clip if we have it, and Immolate on the target. Immolate is massive dot damage for us, and it lets us cast our Con Flag. So Immolate always needs to be up, and Con Flag needs to be put on cooldown, and same with Chaos Bolt. After that, you gotta make sure your curses are up, whatever it may be. We use Doom, because this is our biggest DPS increase. If you don't have a full minute, you could use Agony. And if you are without a Boomkin and or an Unholy DK, you'll have to use Curse of Elements because it's the greatest DPS increase for you and the raid. Quick tip for AoE as well. Destro uses Seed. There's two types of procs you get as Destruction. And I'm gonna fish for them for 1 minute by casting everything I possibly can here. Alright, one of them is these Backdraft procs. Backdraft reduces the cast time on your destruction spells, so look how fast these Incinerates are, 1.3, 1.3. Look, these Immolate, 0.9. It makes a big difference. And we got the second proc that we get, Empowered Imp. Empowered Imp has a chance to increase your next spell crit by 100% in the last 8 seconds. So whenever your Imp crits, you get a free crit. This adds up to a lot of damage. You might want to take a look at the cooldown of your Chaos Bolt or Con Flag and hold your spell for a second so you can get a fat crit with the Empowered Imp buff. If you have an Immolate on the target and you get a massive spell power buff like I just got, like Dying Curse, you want to recast the Immolate on said target, not only for the dot damage of the Immolate itself, but also for Con Flag, since Con Flag is based on the Immolate that is already on the target. It's a big difference. Make sure you recast. Destro has a little niche about it, a little quirk, where sometimes you get GCD locked. When you have Backdraft, which reduces the global cooldown of 3 of your spells by 30%, this is effectively haste, and this paired with Bloodlust can really quickly get you towards a 1600 haste cap, along with the increase in item level from all these Old War pieces. So you want to look at pieces sometimes when you swap the Destro in your bag that might have some crit on it without affecting your hit cap. This also is why on the opener with Destro, I kind of like to use Wild Magic instead, because you usually lust on the opener, and you could use a haste pot later as your second pot, but the Wild Magic makes a big difference in the beginning. The last thing I want to talk about is Shadowfury, which is probably the majority of the reason that you guys are playing the spec at all for Freya in Old War, and wanted to share a little macro with you. It's an @cursor Shadowfury macro, very useful. This is the difference. Shadowfury is like a 30-yard range, 8-yard radius. and this is probably what it looks like when you're aiming, but when you make the @cursor macro, it automatically just puts the ability out where your cursor is. So I can put my cursor over here between these 3 targets, and boom, nice and easy in the description. Thank you for making it this far into the video. Really want to thank you and tell you I appreciate your time. If you like what you saw, please drop a sub. Really helps a lot. Love that algorithm. And I hope to catch you next time. Peace.